In recent years, podcasts have become the primary source of information for me after books. Today, I'm going to share with you the 7 podcasts that I listen to regularly to improve my health, my thinking, and general approach about life. Let me know in the comments your favorite podcast on the topics of self-improvement. The first podcast on the list is the Joe Rogan Experience, hosted by the comedian and martial art commentator Joe Rogan. Known for its wide range of guests, including comedians, politicians, scientists, and actors, the podcast is completely unscripted, and Joe takes as much time as it is required to dive deep into the topics and pushes his guests to get the best insights. He's really curious and a humble human being, and I love to watch him and learn along with him. Joe is a true internet icon. I started listening to him in 2016 when I started using the podcast app in the iPhone. He is so curious and he never shies away from asking dumb questions. So it helps the listeners in really getting deeper into the topics and pushes the host to also provide the insights that we are looking for. Here are a few episodes that I remember from listening to Joe Rogan for years. I think the most memorable and most fun episode of Joe Rogan's Experience was when Elon Musk showed up on the podcast the first time, I think in 2019. It was a cultural movement when he smoked a joint on the podcast and really set the internet on fire. Adam Curry is another interesting guest that I got to know from Joe Rogan. He's finally credited with popularizing the medium of podcast. I was super excited when I saw Mike Tyson on Joe Rogan's podcast. It was so funny and hilarious. They went through all of his fights and the life stories. It was incredible. Just watch the episode. Navan Ravikant, the philosopher. I also got to know him through Joe Rogan's. The first time I saw him, I was immediately hooked to his intelligence and his philosophy about life. Must watch episode. The Lex Fridman Podcast, hosted by Lex Fridman, an AI researcher and expert. His podcast dives deeper into the topics surrounding technology, philosophy, and human nature. I'm really impressed by his humbleness and his curiosity. He has a unique style of interviewing people, going into details, asking probing questions such as, what is the purpose of life? What is love? What is the meaning of all this? And it is very interesting to see the answers provided by his guests. His guest list is amazing and so unique that it's, I think, hard to compare it to any other podcast. He has this unique ability to find really talented, smart people whose intellect level is really unmatchable. My favorites among them are Yosha Falk is the most loaded intellectual I ever came across in my life. His brain is like a library. He can explain any concept, any philosophy, any technology in a way that is unimaginable. I mean, he's like a Google in his head. After listening to him on Lex Fridman's podcast the first time, I went down a search on internet and tried to find any episode, any podcast, any video that he appeared on. And I listened to him again and again and learned so much. I mean, it's incredible. I remember one time the host of a podcast, when listening to Yosha, told him that he feels like a small fish in a bowl when listening to him. I mean, Yosha's capacity is like unimaginable. He's like a mountain of intellect. Order Isaacson is another great guy that I met through Lex Fridman. He recently wrote the biography of Elon Musk, and in the past, he has written the biographies of Winston Churchill, Steve Jobs, and Leonardo da Vinci. Another episode that I really enjoyed listening to was with Mark Andreessen, the tech entrepreneur and a VC. He showed really insights, his way of looking at history and how to learn from them. It was a very unique insight into the mind of a deep thinker. Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of Donald Trump, who never got good press actually, but recently he appeared on Lex Fridman's podcast and discussed a lot of topics, mainly geopolitics, for more than 4 hours. And after listening to the whole conversation, I really admire him. He came out as really thoughtful and who has this unique perspective about really complex problems, especially in the Middle East. I really enjoyed the conversation, and it is a great way to learn about the complexity and multi-layered problem that Middle East is. The Huberman Lab podcast, hosted by Dr. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist at Stanford University, focuses on the science of brain and its impact on various aspects of life. The episodes of this podcast dive deep into topics related to neuroscience, psychology, and biology, offering the listeners a comprehensive understanding of the brain and its impact on behavior, performance, and life in general. Dr. Huberman has this unique ability to translate really complex topics into something understandable for a normal person who is interested in personal development and scientific insights into the functioning of our brain. The amount of research and time Dr. Andrew Huberman puts into his episodes is just incredible. He explained on another podcast that it takes him around 150 to 200 hours to prepare for a 2 hours episode of a podcast. And when you go through it, you get the finesse level of details in a simple language and practical tips to really implement in your own life. I have learned so much from Andrew Huberman, and I have adopted my daily routine according to the scientific findings I came across on his podcast, such as waking up early, getting sunlight in the night, taking cold showers in the morning, working out also early in the morning so that you are charged for the day. How can you increase your dopamine levels, and so on. My most noticeable and favorite episodes from Dr. Andrew Huberman's podcast is the one on physical fitness with Dr. Andy Kaplan. This is, 6 episodes, almost 12 to 14 hours of diving into the details related to nutrition, fitness, and optimal physical performance. The second guest, which I really liked, was Dr. Paul Conti. They did 4 episodes related to assessing your mental health and tools and protocols for improving it. Some other really insightful episodes from the podcast were about dopamine and its use for focus and productivity, the use of alcohol and cannabis according to scientific literature, which concludes that they are really both very bad for your health. The Founders Podcast, hosted by David Serra, is one of the most insightful series on business and strategy. Basically, he reads the biographies of great entrepreneurs and other personalities from history and shares insights, their journey, the difficulties that they came across, and their conviction to do great things in life. It's fantastic. It's like a form of a story. He goes through one or other books about a certain personality and provides you really great information from their childhood, how they thought about businesses, how they basically build things. And I think it's really fantastic for anyone who is a founder himself or is interested in entrepreneurship and self-improvement. David has this unique passion for reading that I share with him. Even on the description, he mentions that somebody like an entrepreneur or any great leader spends literally 20, 30 years of their life building something big and impactful. And then somebody else puts all that information together in a few hundred pages, and you can get access to those pages for $20. Isn't that incredible? Few of the best episodes that I came across on the Founders Podcast are Michael Bloomberg. So I got to learn from his podcast that Michael Bloomberg was actually fired from his job as an investment banker. And then he decided to start his own business and later became a billionaire. John Rockefeller is widely considered to be the wealthiest man ever in America and one of the wealthiest in modern history. He was a self-made man with a lot of conviction in his abilities. And that is the main takeaway that I took from this episode. Winston Churchill is a name that we all heard about, but I got really insights into his life through Founders Podcast. He had this unique conviction on his great role in the history of the world. He was not so successful as a politician in the start, but he kept on going. I mean, lifting himself and believing really that he will become a giant in history. This is incredible. I love that episode. One factor that I also remember from the episode was that how much time Churchill was spending in preparing his speeches. Literally hours. This is again the attention to the detail, those mundane things that one has to do to become great at anything. So he was practicing for hours and hours in the mirrors and then delivering those speeches, which really fired up people in the Second World War. Paul Graham is a guy, I mean, I knew him, but I never knew his work. And he has these essays, you can go and find them online. David read them, and they are really a masterpiece on productivity and doing great work. David did an episode on Christopher Nolan, probably the best director of our age. And the really interesting insight from this episode was that Christopher was doing movies when he was a student. So he met his wife there, and ever since then, he's doing movies together with his wife. So he works together. He's a very private person. He does not use a cell phone or an email. So if you have to contact him, you have to do it manually. Very interesting. Another interesting episode was about James Dyson. So he's the maker or the inventor of the modern vacuum cleaners with the vacuum bag. The insight is that it took him more than 5,000 tries, literally more than 5,000 tries to make it perfectly into a product. And then still, it was not accepted by the established manufacturers. So he found his own company. So he said he would do it himself. It's an incredible example of resilience and belief in your own ability. The All In podcast is a very informative and dynamic series hosted by 4 entrepreneurs turned into investors. The podcast focuses on topics related to technology, venture capitalism, politics, and economic trends. It offers really unique perspectives on these topics. The hosts, known for their candid discussion, really enter into debates that you enjoy listening to. All 4 of them have different personalities and they bring their own flavor to the discussion, which is really a lot of fun to listen to. I learned a lot about investing and startups from this podcast. Jamal Palihaptia, a venture capitalist and an outspoken thought leader who does not shy away from giving his opinion. He is so articulate and thoughtful that he has earned the spot of my second favorite South Asian after Nawaz. Jason Kanakanis is a seasoned angel investor and entrepreneur known for his sharp wit and understanding of the startup ecosystems. David Sachs is another accomplished entrepreneur and investor. He has a very keen eye of understanding and identifying economic trends. He's very interested in politics, and I actually learned a lot from him and the insights that he brings about the US politics and the global geopolitical scene. David Friedberg, innovative entrepreneur and investor, has this unique ability to combine scientific understandings with practical business approach. He has a science corner that he presents in the end of an episode, and I mean, the insights are just remarkable. He reads studies who are absolutely latest in any area of science, be it physics, biotech, or anything else. I'm really impressed by the depth of his knowledge and understanding of scientific topics. So these 4 are friends and poker buddies. So they started talking to each other or doing calls during COVID and later decided to put them online. And now they are one of the best podcasts in the world. Regarding episodes, there are many. So what they did in the last couple of years is they organized an all-in summit, in which they invited global leaders, tech founders, and many really great personalities to have their view. 2 names that I can really mention in this context are the legendary investor Ray Dalio and Bill Gurley. Listen to those episodes. They are just fantastic. Scott Galloway is a professor of marketing at the NYU Stern School of Business, an author and a serial entrepreneur. Known for his candid opinions and sharp insights, he covers a broad range of topics related to business, technology, and their impact on the society. He often delves into the strategies of big corporations, analyze market trends, and weave them together in a way that a normal person can understand. He has a great sense of humor. Actually, I love listening to him so much that I would love to invite him to a party. I mean, his sense of humor is off the chart. It is incredible. He's also very humble and he's quite vulnerable at times as well. And that just shows how authentic he is. A lot of people, especially men, see him as a role model. And he is always ready to give his advice and actually does a lot about topics around masculinity. I think it's a must listen to if you are a young person and looking to grow into business, entrepreneurship, and doing well in life. The Knowledge Project is a podcast hosted by Shane Parrish, which discusses the art of decision-making, critical thinking, and practical wisdom. He interviews a diverse range of intellectuals, high achievers, top leaders in the business world, and combines all of those things together into practical ways for improving our understanding of the world. The thing about Shane is that he is so soft-spoken and thoughtful. He gives a lot of time, actually the most of the time, to his guests to really explain out difficult phenomena and their life learnings for their listeners. The name of the podcast truly reflects its objective and vision, which is to improve our understanding by learning from some of the brightest minds on this planet. Some of the best guests from this podcast are: the episode with Randall Stuttman is the best content I ever came across on the topic of leadership. Randall is a founder and co-head of the leadership practice at CRA and the Admired Leadership Institute. He defines a leader as someone who improves situations and people through strategic engagement with decisions, actions, and symbolism. Another great insight from the episode is that when in a crisis situation, it's not the event itself, but the reaction, the response of the leader that defines their credibility and effectiveness. The topic of giving feedback is really very critical when it comes to your professional development. A lot of companies have tools and processes to do that, but I have hardly come across a professional that knows how to give feedback in a constructive way. The point of feedback is to help people grow. Preparing people for success, Randall suggests to provide them constructive feedback in a well-rounded way. If you have 4 critical points of improvement in somebody's performance, then it is advised to start with some positive points so they can understand that it is really in their interest. It prepares the ground for understanding. And this is very, very important. So just not attack people with your feedback, but really prepare the ground, allow them to digest it, and allow them to work on it. The episode with Kunal Shah, an Indian entrepreneur, has emphasized the importance of understanding cultural aspects and audience motivations and their impact on business. The discussion also emphasized the importance of embracing risk, continuous self-improvement, and the importance of communication in both personal and professional life. Kunal is a very interesting thinker. He had some really unique perspectives, quite different from the Western world because he was mostly engaged in India or in Asia. And so it's a really must listen to if you are interested in just widening your understanding of the global business landscape. The episode with Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn, was also one of the best episodes on entrepreneurship and businesses. The few points that I remember include the importance of keeping plans and strategies really, really simple so that could be communicated to all levels of organization without any distortion. He introduces this concept of explicit learner, which means that you learn so well that you're able to explain complex topics to anyone. He also suggested to confront taking important decisions, and that really moves you from a place of indecision to an action-oriented mindset. Another really interesting point about decision making from this episode was that you should question if this decision that you're going to take, is it reversible? If no, then it might have a really big impact. He really emphasized the use of science in decision making to mitigate any biases and improve the quality of decisions. Thank you so much for watching this episode and being on this journey of self-improvement. Please like, subscribe, and share. It helps me a lot in creating this content, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.